What a joy that you have found us for this podcast. How exciting it is to think that this spiritual message is going out to people around this planet. Whether your life is working at a peak level or whether it can use some enhancement, have I got the message for you today. So get a piece of paper, get ready to take notes, call a friend, have them watch this podcast also. Then you too can have something to talk about and take it to a deeper level. So enjoy. Here we go. Hey, good morning, Seaside. What a joy it is to be with you on this wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And I noticed that I'm always, on Memorial Day, the weekends actually, for a few days in the mornings when I wake up, I'm touched. I take a few moments before I start the day and just my heart opens up in appreciation and gratitude to the men and the women that have given their lives over the years, just for what they believe. They're willing to face one of the greatest fears is death, put themselves in the most horrid of situations because there's a belief inside of them that what they are doing is so right and so correct. And so I know we're in a culture that sometimes just separates life and death, like on parallel paths. We do not necessarily on a collective cultural scale, think about the continuity of life, that the soul continues to evolve and to grow, that there is this, you got death and you got life. You've got these parallels. You got like light and you got darkness. You got heaven, you got earth. You've got the in, the out. You got the masculine, you got the feminine. And what I truly believe is as one steps into this flow, overcomes that fear of what it is that they are holding on, there is this overarching connectedness of all things. That when one steps into the stream of life, you're moving. You're moving in a way where the Native Americans talk about the sacred hoop, where it is all somehow interconnected. It's not like an end. You don't have death and that's it, but rather the death moves into a life. It moves into a new cycle. There is a flow. And over the Chinese philosophy of the flow is called the Tao. There is the flow. There's the life. And when you are willing to let go, and go with a flow, with the power, with the presence of God. You may not know where you're going, but I'll tell you where you are going. Even if you don't know where you're going back into the sea, going back into the ocean of life. You're returning to that something from which you came from. This is why it's imperative to let go of the fears of what we're holding on to and enter into the stream and to go with the flow. So you can come to know that which you truly are, that from which you truly came from, that which you truly are in this world. This nice little story of a girl who was made of salt. I guess she'd be a salt girl. And she was stirred. She wanted to know where she came from, what it is that she is made of. And so she went on that eternal quest to discover who she is and where she came from. And she went across many different lands until she came to the edge of the great ocean. And got excited, went, wow, what is that? And as she took a step into the water, she began to feel something stirring in her soul. And she put her other step in, and she could hear the whisper from the ocean say, keep coming if you want to find what it is you're seeking. And as she went out farther, out and deeper, and she waded in, and she dissolved back into the ocean, she just went, wow, yeah. What else can you say? It's like it just returned back to the substance from which she came. Go out there seeking. What's important is that we return back into that stream. Step into the stream, turn back into the ocean, turn back into that something from which we came, to go with the flow, let go of the familiar, and begin to know and to trust with the depth of our being that it is about discovering that something. That spiritual quest is not about understanding and having more knowledge of what it is we came from, or having more knowledge as to what God is, or more names for God, or this divine essence, or this consciousness. It is about experiencing it. It is about knowing it. It is about being it. That spiritual quest is not about more information. Coming through the church doors and coming into church doesn't make you spiritual any more than going into a garage would make you a car. It is about dissolving back into that life essence, that life presence, that consciousness, that one mind, that one see, that one power, that there is only this one consciousness, and what you are is consciousness appearing. That's what you are. You are consciousness appearing at your individual level. And when you absolutely can rest in that, you need no longer go out and try to figure out, how am I able to fix this and fix that and pray for this and pray for that? But rather what I want to do is step back into that consciousness, back into that flow that knows how. It is a flow that creates. It is a flow that is all powerful. So I keep saying, step into the stream. Step into that life. I do not need to tell God what to do, but rather I must come to know what that life force is, what I am, and the power behind that, and it will eradicate those challenges. It will dissolve the difficulties, just like salt in water. So what I must do is to spend more time meditating. That's how I enter into the stream, is to meditate, is to surrender to that something, and to listen and to feel and sense and know and become. And when I do that, I will find the favor of the Lord upon me. Does that sound so biblical? I like that. The favor of the Lord is upon me. I use that because it just has a nice ring to it. But what I want you to get is that favor of the Lord is upon you. That presence of God is flowing on your behalf. If what you're looking for is a financial boost, it knows that. The favor of the Spirit is upon you. If you're looking for greater health in your body, I do not need to pray for that, but rather I've entered into this stream, this all-creative life force, this consciousness that created the universe and the galaxies. It knows. It knows. And so I've got to learn to trust that. And what I'll come to discover is it shows up in my life, not only in the big areas, not only do I need to connect and have faith in those big spots, but also in the little ones. The favor of the Lord is upon you in all areas when you're in that flow. Have you ever been in a checkout stand and you're in a rush and you got behind the slowest checker in the world and they won the award, slowest checker award, and there's a line, but when that Spirit is with you, I've noticed is that someone come tap on my shoulder and it will be a new checkout person saying, "Hey, come on over here, I'm opening up." It's like I've got preferential treatment. And you know what you do? Because you are spirit. You are consciousness appearing. That's you. Your consciousness appearing. Remember buying a pair of pants. I get up to the cash register and the lady says, this weekend these pants are going on sale. I said, but I can't come on weekends. I work on weekends. I'm busy. She said, oh, okay, well, I'll just give you the discount now. Like, this is good. I said, hey, did you notice the button? It's kind of flawed. I go, oh, yeah? She said, yeah, what do you think? I go, yeah? Oh, I better give you another 25% off. That's fine, I wasn't expecting it, but there is this preferential treatment. When you're with the flow, life is working on your behalf. It is going before you to make the crooked ways straight. It is there for you, but you have got to enter into the stream. You enter into that stream through meditation. You enter into that stream by doing your work, being consistent with it, coming to know it. So when the challenges arrive in your life, you don't fall prey to the evidence of this world. The classic story of Job. Oh my goodness. Talk about a tough time. This guy, within a year, he lost his family, he lost his job, his career, his health. His body was filled with boils. He lived in pain and misery. It's a 42-chapter story of misery. But by the 10th chapter, at the beginning of it, he says that God's favor is upon me. He declared his faith. He had an attitude of faith as things were seeming to go amok in his world. In the beginning, he declared that God's favor was with him in the face of pain and difficulties and challenges. Danielle was talking to me between services. Did I see the movie In Pursuit of Happiness? I said I was miserable through that movie. The whole movie just made me want to cry and scream as a dad, and just for a couple moments at the end of happiness. She said, but didn't you see the special features afterwards that said all the good stuff? I said, no. But there is a modern day real true story of Job where it ends up coming back multiplied. When you declare your faith, in the spite of the evidence that is there, When you're willing to declare your faith and know that the presence of God is with you in the midst of the challenges and the difficulties, because they show up in our life. Are you able to know that? Familiar story, a guy shipwrecked, deserted island, probably a desert island also, except he had enough to build himself a nice little hut where he had his only possessions in that hut. And that's where he lived. And every day he would comb the beach. He'd walk the beach looking in the horizon, any ships, anything out there. So one day he's in making lunch, cooking lunch over the fire, however one does on a desert island. And there's a ship out there, a cruise ship going out by, way out there in the distance. He gets so excited, he jumps up, and he runs outside in his excitement, hooting and hollering, making all the noise, trying to, catch, the appearance of the ship that's way out there, can't see. And he turns around and he noticed he knocked the fire over, or the cooking, and his hut just went up in flames and is burning, devastated. How terrible. And he falls asleep that night under the stars, just crying. You can guess what happens. The next morning, he wakes up, someone's shaking his shoulder. It's the captain of the ship. And he said, "How'd you find me?" And he said, "Your smoke signals told me you were here." Yeah. Even in the midst of the challenges, can you know that the favor of the Lord is upon me? Are you able to know? Because I'll tell you, one of the hindrances that we have, maybe not you, but some people have, is that they tend to take a look at the where things fall short in their life, where things are not working. And then they declare, not necessarily their faith, what they declare is this need, this want. And so the seed that they're planting in this stream, this life force, this power that is flowing, are these seeds of need and want. And what do they get to continue to experience in their life? Is that what they need, and that is what they want. That is the flow, this is the circulation, this is what comes back to them. And so when there is a need in our life, it is time to change that need to a seed and plant that, because we know as you sow, so you reap. That's the story. That is what we're told. That is the way it works. That is what you put in the flow. That is what moves downstream. Is your consciousness that is appearing, is it appearing as need and want, or is it appearing as a declaration of faith in the good and even the not so good times? What is you put in life? You don't have much going on there. What can I put out there? Well, I'll tell you what, by the measure you use is how it's measured back unto you, is what it says in Luke. By the measure that you use, it is measured back unto you. So if you're using a teaspoon, you get a teaspoon or two back. If you're using a shovel, you get a shovelfuls back. And if you're using a dump truck, man, open up the space, because you get dump trucks coming back to you. This is the flow. This is the power. These are the seeds that you're planting. That's why last week, 10 talents that we did. We gave away money to everybody last week. And, it was time that Seaside, I don't know if we're in a position to give away money, but we gave everybody $10 last week because we knew it was not about more knowledge about principles, more knowledge about God. It was about being, it was about experiencing, it was about planting seeds. It was about being the activity of consciousness. And as we gave that out to everybody, it's fun to listen to stories that have come back this week. They said, "Christian, I just couldn't take it." What came up for you? It's interesting with the stuff that money stirs up in your soul and your subjective for you to look like. I had people give me this week, literally, their envelope back with the money. "Hey, I just can't get involved with it." Had other people say, "How exciting, practicing the principle." Others begin to share stories. Had someone come back and say they were inspired by Annette's real estate story from last week, who wrote her check based on the commission she hadn't yet received. He wrote a check this week based on a business deal that has not yet completed, but was declaring his faith. Had a mom come through the door say that her son is going to have her stop at the store to buy brownie mix on the way home from church last week so he could sell brownies next. Well, he's not here this week. He's with his dad. But following week, when you see a little guy selling brownies out there next, buy them. And I saw wonderful boards and decorations. We have all sorts of things being sold out there. It is an opportunity to practice, to be this spiritual principle that we talk about, this circulation, this creation in our life. Are you able to be Spirit expressing in a powerful, positive, creative kind of way? Or are you allowing your head to get in there in this linear kind of thinking that says, you know what? You got light and dark. You got heaven, earth, life, death, logical. You know, there's not this, it doesn't make sense how it can come back to me. It's like these lines in truth on the spiritual level reconverge. They're not straight, but yet we can thank good old René Descartes, in the 17th century, philosopher, mathematician, who really gave us the scientific method of evaluation. He laid out, what he did was he took the pieces and put them down in a logical, deductive kind of way, which basically eliminated the beautiful sacred hoops and the full experience of life. I want to share something with you that he wrote. And, he's the one who insisted that mind and body were two independent, fundamental, distinctive realms. And here's his argument. There is nothing included in the concept of body that belongs to the mind. And there's nothing in that mind that belongs to the body. See, with the mind separated out and set aside, the body could then be understood as a precision instrument. You pull the spirit out of it, now I can understand it. We're not going to get any special tricks from the other realms showing up. He equated it to like a clock. And kind of cut a deal with the church. He gave them the spirit, the soul, the intuitive, the metaphorical, that were just not scientific, were not tangible. And for that, they authorized Descartes' theory and gave him bodies to work with and begin to practice with and dissect the Cartesian theory. And all of a sudden, at that point, we pulled out spirit and soul and the whole picture and the flow and entering into the stream. But rather, you got a body. And so he could dissect it, and he assured the church that it had nothing to do with your soul or your spirit. And so since then, basically been going to the doctors and saying, hey, doc, I'm not feeling quite right. What's up? And so you sit there waiting for the verdict to come on from on high, tell you what's wrong with you. And if they found something, then you have to wait longer until the lab reports come back. You know how terrible it is to make somebody wait days for a lab report to tell you that you're not right? There is something inside of you that knows. There is something inside of you that has the body respond. This body responds to that soul. Who you are is so much bigger than this physical body, but yet we want this logical explanation to cure us from the outside. There's a story of a guy who went to the doctors, the middle of winter, and the doctor said, you know what? You got the common cold. Got to be patient. Wait it out. There is no cure for the common cold. The guy said, oh, come on, doctor, you got to cure this. You got to cure it. You got to make it better. Doctor said, there isn't a cure. He said, you got to give me the cure. He said, okay, I'll tell you what. Go home, take a cold shower, wrap a towel around yourself, run outside the house in the middle of winter for about an hour. The guy said, but then I'm going to catch pneumonia. He said, that we have a cure for. How sick do we need to make ourselves? What seeds are we planting in the ground? As we do our work, as we do our meditation, as we enter into that stream, into that consciousness, into that life force, as we come to know it through demonstrating in our life that there is something far greater than the physical realm of effects or authorities from doctors or bank account statements, that I am part of this infinite stream of abundance and well-being and health, I will come to know at the depths of my being the truth of who I am. And as you come to know more and more and spend more time with that presence, that's about getting into the stream, spending time with the presence. So like that salt child who melts back into the whole, you come to know who you are. You no longer need to refute the false claims of this world in which we live in. You no longer need to refute and say, this is not so. Because you will know the truth. Because you have spent time filling your awareness with that one consciousness. At one point you had to learn your times tables. Remember that? You finally got to the point where you understood that 10 times 10 equals 100. In elementary school, you spent time learning 9 times 9, 81, 10 times... you got it. You spent enough time until something clicked. And you no longer needed to practice doing your multiplication tables. You no longer needed to refute the wrong answers. You knew, and you didn't have to keep working on knowing it. You knew. Well, in our life, we get to the point where we know. And it's not like I have to refute it, live with affirmations and denials. I am in that stream, and I know the truth of who I am. I am one with Spirit. I drop my ego sense, my personal sense, which the West has difficulty doing. That is one of the irreconcilable differences between the Western philosophy and the Eastern philosophy. The West believes that when you move on and on, you keep your personality, your identity. So we become a bunch of demigods running around up there, guiding everything with Spirit. Seriously, that's the Western belief. The Eastern philosophy believes in that this expression merges back into the whole, like that salt girl back into the ocean, where it's like, yeah, this is it. She said, this is who I am. But we have to be willing to let go of the individual, the personality, the ego, that which we have worked so hard on getting. But as we do, what we've come to discover is we're blown open. There is so much more. This stream turns into a powerful, mighty river. We yield to it. We merge with it. We flow with it. We are that power. We are that stream. Create greater space for the good to show up in your life. That which is relevant and real and pertinent to you is what shows up. If you're working on healing, that's what shows up. If you're working on a new house, that's what shows up. The Bible is very clear on this. Isaiah, a wonderful prophet. I'll share with you something he wrote from the 54th chapter. I know all you Bible-carrying metaphysicians, they want to pull it out. He writes, enlarge the place of your tents and stretch forth the curtains of your habitations. Spare not. Lengthen the cords and strengthen your tent pegs, for you shall expand, be bursting at the seams. Expand the place of your tent. Enlarge the place of your tent. Open up the curtains. Open up the door. There is something that is flowing. There is something that is powerful. And only when you are willing to declare your faith, have that attitude of faith in the early chapters. You actually can do it in the late chapters too, but it's a lot easier. You do it up front. I'll tell you, it is a lot easier to go through your life with trust, faith, peace, inner calm, serenity, and tranquility, as opposed to freaking out along the way. That's my personal opinion, but yeah. But for us to be able to know, what has happened is that we've given so many opportunities in our life to expand and enlarge the tent, to open the doors, and we haven't. We have missed those pivotal opportunities that come in our life. And I give you a hint, those pivotal opportunities come often. We may look back and wish I would have bought stock in Qualcomm when it first started, but you didn't. Or Coca-Cola. We can look back, but I want us to be aware that those pivotal opportunities come in our life all the time. But we don't notice them because we have become comfortable with the status quo. We have become comfortable with the side of the river, that bank we're holding on to, the security, the familiarity, that which is known. We do not step and enter into the stream. We hold on with the status quo. It may be working, may not be working, but I know it. And so we miss out on the pivotal opportunity to enlarge our experience of the kingdom of heaven here on earth in a way that is right, relevant, and wonderful to you. And that which feels right to you. Now, the old story of the frog who used to live in the bottom of a well down there, and he just used to swim circles in the bottom of the well with his family of frogs. They were happy doing their frog thing in there. And one day, this frog decided he was going to climb up on the rocks and get out of the well. And he climbed to the top of the well and stuck his little frog head over the stones, and he saw a pond out there and went, whoa, I've never seen so much water. And so he hopped on over the pond. It was kind of fun. So he kept going, and he came up to a lake. And this lake was enormous. It made the pond look small. And he kept going because now he was an adventurous little frog. And he ended up down at the same ocean that Salt Girl made it to. And he just stood there, just could not believe how much water there was in this world. His mind couldn't even begin to fathom that much water. Yet, he was very content, swimming circles in his dark little hole in the well, not knowing how much more the Spirit has in store for you, for us, for Seaside, than we can ever begin to know. This is why I say take time to meditate. That's how you enter into the stream. This is how you catch the vision of your being, that vision of God, that one consciousness that is appearing. It is appearing as you. That's how you do it. You take the time, because so often we give our power away to the status quo. This is my work and this is where I get my paycheck. Or this is the way it works. I save my money and then I have some to retire on. Or whatever our status quo is, that is what it is we know. We forget that Spirit is our source. We forget that the divine is our essence. We forget that God is our source, and it gives us the power to experience the wealth. It gives us the power to experience the health, the well-being, and then the joy. Let us remember God first in all things, we're told. Remember, it is Spirit. That's the seeds that we need to be planting, are God seeds around us, honoring that presence. So the seeds I'm planting continues to bring forth more God expression in my life, so I can move beyond what I think is the outcome of any particular situation, even if it's only the 10th chapter of a 42-chapter book. There's something grander that can multiply more than I ever could begin to know, whether it's in Pursuit of Happiness movie or whether it is Job. Dr. Rachel Rennan was working with a young cancer patient who had his leg removed from the hip down. This young man was devastated, crushed, in pain, emotionally distraught, knew his life was over and ruined. Months was in this dark place. She had him draw a picture of his life. He drew a picture of a vase with a big, dark, black crack all the way through it. And he said, "This is my life, broken." She continued to spend time being there with compassion, with heart. And all of a sudden, he started to work with other individuals who had similar catastrophic physical challenges. And in the conversation, he began to assist them, they would assist him. As in that time of togetherness, as time moved on, began to recognize that he was not his body, he was not that leg, but rather who he is, was moving through this form. Who he is does not end at death, but rather it is a continuum, it is a stream, it is a sacred hoop, it is an all-arching expression, it is a flow. It is not a separate, linear, parallel lines, but rather who he is was so much more, and is in this togetherness, sharing of himself and being there compassionately for others and planting the seeds of what it was he had. What he had to share was a listening ear. What he had to share was compassion. Those were the God seeds he was planting first. And came across this picture a year later or so with Dr. Rachel, and he said, "You know what? This picture is not the full picture anymore. Yes, I still have a crack in me. I'm broken." But he said there's now light coming out of the crack. And he started drawing light coming out of that crack to describe how his life had changed. These are the miraculous kind of healing things that happen beyond a logical, linear kind of mind can understand. There's a soul movement that re-enters the stream and remembers. There is a compassion. For me, I put caring right at the top of my priority list. Because in caring, I get to express the presence of God. I get to be the heart of God. I've learned it is so much better to give somebody a piece of my heart than a piece of my mind. And when we are sharing our heart, what happens is we're opening up the floodgates. We're opening up we've opened up the tent, the doors of the tent to allow that Spirit to flow. And as that Spirit flows, there is expansion, there is growth, there is new possibilities. We're flowing back into the ocean of life. We are merging once again with that from which we came. We remember that which we truly are, and that is what shows up in our life in a powerful way. So I challenge you this week to let go. Enter that stream. Enjoy your trip. God bless us. So I'd like to invite the ushers to come forward as we do take our gift from our heart. Again, with a lot of heart and soul and passion. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Hey, I trust you enjoyed that podcast. It was very exciting to be able to create that and to know that there are people like you all around the world that are observing and integrating these spiritual principles into their life. And so if you enjoyed it, what I'd like to do is encourage you to tell a friend or bring several friends together and watch another one of these podcasts. And then afterwards, take some time to talk about the spiritual principles, to talk about the stories and what significance they have and relevance they have in your life. What then happens is it moves to a deeper and deeper level in your world. It becomes real and assists you to create the freedom in your life that your heart and soul so desire. So if you like this, I encourage you to watch it again, but also tune into our website here at seasidecenter.org. There, you can get some of my written material and take a look at it. You can read some of my spiritual prayers. You can even go to our online bookstore and order some of the books. And if you're so moved, what I greatly would appreciate is your financial support, which you could do online at seasidecenter.org. It is support like yours that assists us to be able to continue to do these kinds of gifts for humanity and send it out to the world. Because you know what? We are making a difference with this spiritual message. And because of support like yours, people are being touched in the farthest reaches of this planet, as well as our backyard, more than we could ever begin to realize. So I thank you from the fullness of my heart for making a difference.